What should we name it?
Whip! Thank you so much, Whip, for that resub. 10 months. Whip, you know baby's born in 9 months, right? I feel like you should know that. It's important to me that you know that. What's up, the rest of you? How we all doing? We're ready for the Old Moon podcast, baby? All right. We got some banger topics ready for you guys. Hold up. We're about to go live right now. Well, I'll probably start it right at 8. Still not an acceptable use of the word moist. Yo, Sequence, I'm on that Suck Guardian. It's kind of fat. In a good way. In a very healthy, non-fat shaming kind of way. Yeah. I am currently live talking to my starting soon chatters real quick. And I'll probably hit basically the start button at 8 o'clock on the money here, so. Yep. All right. Oh, well. Okay, all right. That's the best you're ever gonna fucking get it out of me, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Am I too loud? Yeah, tell one of your officers to invite me. I can do it right now. I do it right now. Are you online? Apply to the guild. Yeah, apply to the guild. Oh, back to your YouTube vids. And the double mooses abandoning their horse and intros are the funniest things I've ever seen. Later on, yes. So good. Funny Monday constantly keeps getting better and better, bro. So we're constantly adding just tweaks here and there, really upgrading like the content value of that, like of that whole thing, making it a YouTube thing. I finally started posting it on Reddit. Dream, what's up? Wait, what's your family name? Apocalypse, what's your family name? Because I don't see you applied right now. Alright, make sure you apply to Reforged. There you are. You. Guild invite. There you go, big dog. Welcome to the guild, man. First, not even close, baby. But that's okay. It's gonna be fire when it drops. I will look at that a little later. See, goods. It's not that I don't trust you, it's that... Okay. Time is it? 58? We're 2 minutes. 2 minutes alive, boys. 2 minutes alive. Double check production value. Production value is good. Talk for me one more time, boys. I'm gonna test the stream for you guys. I'm gonna make sure.
Hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hi, how's it going? This is a test. Hello.
All right, testing. Jake, can go ahead and test for me.
Hi, testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm gonna ask him. Now I'm gonna ask him if we sound similar. Chat, do I need to turn anybody up? Oh, I'll give Basil that treat. Don't you worry. Sounds good to me. Okay, good. As long as I'm not too overpowering and stuff. I need to go down a little. Is that true? Do I need to come down? I can bring it down. Or do I just boost both of them up a little bit? Do I just bring them up? I'll bring them up. I want to bring them up like 6%. Elevate them. Thank you, Trini. All right. Okay. It's game time. It's game 10. Oh shit, I got GM corruption in my fucking DM. All right. All right, boys. I'm gonna hit go live. I'm gonna do my intro, okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Old Moon Podcast. Please give me live. All right, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Old Moon Podcast, episode 3. I am your host, Blue Squadron. I am joined, of course, as always, with my co-hosts. I'll go ahead and introduce them. Jaycoon, go ahead and introduce yourself down there.
Hi, I'm Jaycoon, and I always never know what to say after my intro, so that's my intro.
Your name. You've just experienced the North American greeting.
Hi. Is that scene from Chicken Little when he holds up the signed cards?
Yeah. All right. And my boy Arslan, there we call him Tiltus. Tiltus, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, what's up? I'm Tiltus, also known as Arsley. How's it going? I'm excited to be here tonight. It's going to be a fun one.
Right on. Okay, we have a lot of fun topics for you guys. All right, we have a lot to talk about tonight because of what kind of got teased and dropped this week. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump straight into the crystals of BDO. Again, we're gonna kind of start the conversation off with the evolution of crystals in BDO. When the game came out, kind of to where we're at today with the current crystal setup. So when the game started out, did you guys? I know, Jaycoon, you started a little after Tiltus and I did, but Tiltus, at least I'll let you field it first. When we started the game, and we'll start with Jin Bon 1. Do you think that Jin Bon 1 was like the correct way to address crystals in the game? Like the whole system, this whole roulette system, you have one like crystal that's objectively better than the other two, but the other two are more common and easier to get. What do you think?
I think, honestly, probably from a gameplay perspective, it kind of makes sense. It keeps things in the marketplace always rolling over, right? You always need Forest Furies, which used to sit by the millions on the market. But yeah, I think, honestly, from a gameplay perspective, it makes sense. It rewards the people that grind the most, that throw things at it. A little bit of RNG in there, but you're pretty much always guaranteed to get the best in slot if you grind enough. So I think as a gameplay loop, it's probably a fine system. I don't feel strongly one way or the other about it.
Okay, Jacob, how do you feel about one crystal being objectively better than the others with like an RNG gated system?
I kind of really liked how they did the Kobe's, like Jin Banwan Kobe's, where each of the crystals had something a little bit better than the others. For example, Jin Kobe's had 5 DR, but only 100 HP. But Bond Kobe's had 150 HP and only 3 DR. So the trade-off was like 2 DR versus 50 HP, kind of like that. And one had extra weight, which nobody really cared for. But I kind of liked how like there was like choices, because that was the way it was back then. But it seems like nowadays with the Jin Banwan, for example, the special attack evasion Jin Banwans, Jins are just strictly better than the others. So
yeah, I mean,
kind of like how it was before. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. I personally prefer crystals where you have like choice in your crystal setup, right? Like we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast. I like having that variety in builds between players where you can have that meaningful discussion with yourself. Most of the time, it's like, okay, well, what build do I want to go? Do I want to be a glass cannon? Do I want to be a tank, etc.? And you can give it a lot of thought like that. I like a deep system like that. So making one crystal better than the others is kind of sketchy, but we always had like the human damage crystals. They added more human damage crystals right around the time they added the L-Cars to the game, and I kind of liked the way that they designed L-Cars, because before the Jin Vipers were like the go-to, right? But they gave you like +1 attack, +1 cast speed, and 20 accuracy, versus the L-Cars that gave you the
ignore resist, right?
Ignore resist, thank you. Do you guys run both Vipers and L-Cars? Did you guys always run those back in the day?
Yeah, I pretty much
for the most part
ran those.
Okay, now do you run them for all of your crystal setups today?
No. No. Now we have capped content in a lot of places, so you can get away with not using certain things. Like my T1 build, I think it only has L cards in it. I don't think it has Vipers or anything else that gives accuracy. I might be wrong on that. It's been a while since I looked at it. But I think with capped content, it allows you to vary things up a little bit. You have more ways to get the accuracy that you need, so you don't need to go the Vipers. Now, I think for open worlds, I think the accuracy is just king for the most part. Accuracy and as much AP as you can muster. So,
yeah. I'll be honest. One of the things, JQ, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think the biggest reason why people don't just constantly use L-Cars and Vipers anymore, like just together, like all the time, is because of the crystal presets. There was a lot more choices. Like we didn't really have much to go on when it came to glove crystals. You kind of just put Vipers in there, but now we have a lot more choices, right? We're not stuck with the restrictions of crystals being only for this slot. It's like everything's basically a combined magic crystal, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I really wanted to touch on is honestly, I didn't think that like the crystals they were releasing up until like really recently, really underwhelming. I don't know, the L-Cars and then the RBF crystals, even the Node War crystals that they released after a while, like the Jin Banwan Node War crystals, obviously they're very good. I'm not saying they're not good. Most of them are considered best in slot, but like they're just kind of boring. As people in my chat are alluding to, it's boring to just pick up the best in slot crystal and be like, okay, this is done. The crystals, to me, didn't really get revolutionized until they changed the crystal system, just like Jakun just said. Like, until they changed how the system worked. And then, I feel like it just exploded. Without releasing a single new crystal, suddenly the game just exploded with diversity in crystal builds and what you were allowed to do in PvP, PvE, people exploring all different types of stuff. And we're seeing green crystals get brought in from like forever ago with the siege crystals and stuff. So like, do you guys, I assume that you guys, okay, I'm not going to throw you the softball. I assume you like the current crystal system, but is there anything 100%. You'd like to see added to it? I think we can all agree it's a big upgrade over what we had before, but like, is there anything you think that's missing? Jakun, I'll ask you first.
Missing from the crystal, like this, just the whole system of everything.
Yeah, or do you think it's overly monetized at all? I've heard a couple people be critical of it being overly monetized as well.
So before they had a limit of like only 50 crystals, but now they increased the limit to 100, and that was the only issue I had before when they released the new system, was that I couldn't have all the crystal builds I wanted. I had to extract a couple because we had just too many different variety that I wanted to go for. But now with 100, I felt like 100 was enough. I don't really have. I'm not sure if anything could be, improved upon. Do you have any ideas? Or?
Well, I'll ask Stiltus first. Stiltus, do you think it's overly monetized on the Pearl Shop, or do you think it could be improved on in any way, or do you think they've just nailed it? It's okay to say they've nailed it. It's okay to say nobody's gonna hurt you here. This is a safe space.
No, I honestly I'm just biased from only basically having one crystal setup for every aspect of the game, that now I can have multiple that I just think I'm like Stockholm syndrome into thinking it's amazing. I know a lot of criticism, the biggest criticism I saw when it came out was the 5 limited presets that you had. I don't think the right route was to monetize that. I think they could have just given us 5 more slots and called it a day. But I don't even use all 5 most of the time, so I've got like a 5th one that I like float on sometimes. But
yeah, so I personally think that they nailed the monetization on this. I love this. Like, I think that like they have one available in the loyalties that you can pick up too. Yeah. So there's one in there too, and that's free basically, right? And then the crystal inventory expansion, of course, there's a loyalty for that as well. I think you get 25 original slots, and then you can get the loyalty one, which puts you up to 30. I know that people are sometimes overly critical of how they monetize things, but I actually think that they nailed this. I think that a new player can come in and get like all the usage they need out of the crystal system with 5 presets and plenty, right? Like 5 presets, I feel like is absolutely more than most players in the game are actually going to need. And like they added an extra Pearl Shop feature, but I think that's how it should be designed. Bro, everybody wants everything for free nowadays. I don't understand why they can't just release everything for free. Well, dude, you play on their servers basically for free. Like, you technically could play this entire game. You could play thousands of hours on their servers, thousands of hours of their content for technically without giving them a dime, right?
Yeah.
So like, they have to make money somewhere, and I think that this is the correct way to kind of do that. So I think that they've done a great job monetizing it. I think this is one of the first times on the podcast where we've been like, okay, the developers actually just nailed this, bro. Like, they reworked it and they just knocked it out of the freaking park, man. I absolutely love it. It adds the diversity to the game that we need. Now.
Yeah, I love the crystal setup. It was such a good change. Like, I can't praise that setup enough.
Okay, now that I've got my mouth off of the developers' penises a little bit, let's pivot a little bit and take a look at these new crystals. You guys have you familiarized yourself with some of these new crystal setups, or some of these new crystals that they've released? I'm gonna approach these. I'm gonna approach these one at a time. I'm gonna let Jake, you're the one that wanted to kind of bring it up, so I'm gonna let you go first. Let's look at Phoenix Tears. What do you think about this crystal? This top left one up here.
I mean, it's a really powerful crystal. I think most people will run this for general PvP, for the most part. And then I guess we just want to talk about this one. I think this will just be the best PvP crystal in the game, just because it has so much stats going for it, right? It has the extra special attack damage, extra HP, extra accuracy, etc., etc. I'm pretty sure it used to have drop rate. Oh, it does have drop rate. I'm just blind.
Yeah, 5%
Sorry.
drop rate.
So it's going to be your general PvP, PvE crystal. That's it. That's all I have to add to this crystal, to be honest.
Right.
I don't really have any complaints about it.
Do you just run this and everything, even though it's got like monster stuff on it and everything? Do you think you run at least? Wait, can you only? All right. First of all, when are these coming out with the new expansion specifically? Or when are we getting these? Mm-hmm. These are for the new expansion?
New expansion, yes. New expansion.
Okay. All right. So Korea already has these, presumably.
Korea already has these, but it will take some time to get, because the boxes, right? The loot boxes are time gated, so it's going to be maybe a couple weeks before people start crafting these, because you need to craft them from the weaker versions of the crystals. I forgot to add those, by the way, but most people will be looking at the final crystal anyways.
We want the big poppy.
Yeah,
we want the big poppy.
Yeah, exactly.
Tiltus, what do you think about this thing?
So I think, looking at all the crystals as a whole, I think Phoenix Tears are actually going to be a PvE set specifically.
You think this isn't going to be used in PvP?
Well, seeing that it shares the group same group name as 3 other crystals on here, I could see an argument being made to use the other 2, assuming that you can only slot 2 in at a time. I can see arguments being made for the other ones.
Okay, so what's the limitation on sliding these? Can you only have one of each of these? Or like
so 1 Phoenix tier or 1 Kirin tier or 1 Hete tier.
So they do share a group. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can only have one of each of these 3 here. The Hete and then the Kirin.
So
okay. So Jake, you think that everyone's gonna use Phoenix?
The reason why I say this is for the PvP crystal is because there's actually a PvE specific version of the legendary crystal, which is Kirin's tier, which I was going to let's look at
PvP. Yeah. Let's do PvP first. Let's do PvP first. Tiltus, which one do you think is the PvP one?
I think the purple one's going to be the PvP one.
Really?
Hite?
Oh.
Yeah, Hite. Yeah.
So in uncapped PvP and capped PvP, you think like this is the go-to? It doesn't have a lot of HP on there. Why do you think it?
The reason I think so, I think special attack evasion is so good. You're only getting 0.5% of extra damage from the Phoenix tier. That's a pretty small percentage.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. I could see an argument being made for either one. The hidden AP is really nice, but you're getting more defensive stats out of the Hite, which is why I think you'll end up seeing more purple ones, in my opinion.
I'm gonna go with Tiltus on this one. I'm gonna run Hite for PvP specifically.
Okay.
I don't feel like, especially as the shot. I mean, I'm a shot caller, right? And I'm playing frontline most of the time. The 200 HP to me is much more invaluable. Plus, even in capped content, HP is the gift that keeps on giving in capped content versus some of this other stuff that you get. I don't know. Like special attack evasion rate, you're not going to get that in capped. You're probably usually going to be at the cap for that. Stamina is always good on every class. You really can't go wrong with that, especially in Node Wars where you're running constantly. Even non-stamina capped classes can benefit from that. Flat evasion, flat DR, that just helps you hit the caps a little bit easier, I think, with your crystal setup, which is kind of a big deal because then you could potentially run different build setups. You know, like this green AP offhand is something that is relatively recent that people have started doing. So like we might see more variation in build for that. But like I could definitely see the special attack damage for like a top fragger kind of player that plays for himself and not the offense ball. Chicken. All special attack extra damage plus 0.5% is really the only thing that you're getting out of that, other than 75 HP, so you're getting 125 more HP with Hite and 50 stamina, 50 MP. The MP is like whatever, but I don't even know why they bother with that, to be honest with you. But
these crystals are good. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, well, if you're the top fragger, why not take the Kirin's one?
Really, for PvP? Hold on, I haven't even looked at the. Hold on, let me just.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the more you look at them, the more I'm like, man, these are actually pretty good. Because the Kirin's tier, you get all special attack 1%, which is a 0.5% increase, but still, you're also getting stamina on this one. Oh, you get stamina on all 3. Never mind. Yeah.
You're just getting the 1% special attack damage.
What about uncapped content, like open world uncapped content? Would you use
Hite for sure,
Hite or still Hite? Oh,
I think uncapped. I would use Hite. The defensive stats I think are too good to pass up.
I think that,
especially with the uncapped special attack evasion, like you stack some more of those and you're feeling pretty. So
yeah, I mean, like let's look at it for a second. If you're going to talk about uncapped content, look at it as a capped player, Jacob. Like what do you value more at this stage of the game? Do you value more damage? Let's say you weren't playing as shy like a bitch. Do you value more damage or do you value defensive stats in the late game? Because I feel like, I don't know, let's hear your opinion first.
True.
Let's say you're playing your witch. Let's say you're playing your witch.
Yeah. I do agree that the defensive stats do seem. That's why people like pay extra 30 bill just to get their Eye of the Ruins over the Crescent. So the extra defensive stats are pretty valuable.
Yep,
so
exactly.
I do agree with you in that.
Yeah, I think that Yeah, I think the defensive stats are just what you're looking for late game. I think if you can't kill someone with 745 gear score, it's a user error. The crystal is not going to help you. There's like,
Do you think? Sorry, do you think they should buff the Phoenix tiers? If you think like everybody's gonna run Hete?
in uncapped PvP, I think everybody runs Hite. In capped PvP, I think you're either running Hite, or I agree with Tiltus again, or Kieran, because you get the special attack damage is probably the most important thing.
True.
Yeah, the special attack damage, like I know for sure in T1s everybody's going to have a Kieran tier. There's no doubt about it, just because of that full percentage. Everything else is capped. You don't need any of that stuff. But yeah, the special attack extra damage, even just 0.5%, is huge.
Yeah, I think and so okay, so let's all right, so that's PvP discussion. And honestly, the fact that we all disagree on this means that they've done a good job, right? Like they've done a good job balancing these crystals. Let's look at PvE, and since Jakin, you know more about PvE than most of the server put together, why don't you lead off that discussion in PvE? Which one do you think is the best?
The best for PvE. I think the Cruel Slaughter crystals are just a no-brainer to just add to your PvE setup. It just gives you 7 monster AP and 1% back attack, and it can stack with any crystal. It has it's in its own category. So
let's stay with the Hite, Kieran, Phoenix first. If you're picking one of those 3 for PvE. No, I'm sorry. I should have specified. I should have specified. We'll get to those in a minute. Yeah, we'll get to those in a minute.
Well, Kieran's tier, because it has 10 monster AP, 10 monster DR. It just has those best stats for just PvE in general. So I mean, I could see running Hete's tiers if let's say you're running the dungeon and you just want to run more defensive stats for the dungeon to survive, because the dungeon's all about just surviving and doing mechanics. And Kieran won't give you as much defensive stats as Hete, so I could see that being run in the PvE scenario. But for the most part, I think PvE clear speed, Kieran's tiers is going to be the best one out of the other 2 for PvE clear.
I agree. I could see you making an argument that if you want a hybrid for open world, Phoenix tiers would be good.
I don't know, man. Keep going.
Yeah, I just think Kieran's tier is just arguably the best PvE crystal out of the 3 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No, which means that Phoenix really is just garbage then, right? Like I feel like then you're just not using then I feel like that Phoenix is literally just not gonna be used at all. Because if you're gonna use Hite or Kieran, like you go to one extreme or the other, I feel like to make this blunt, Phoenix is the balance exactly. of these crystal setups. Like people don't make balance carrots in EDO, people make mistakes.
It does have a pretty cool skin. I do like the skin of the balance skin.
It does look like a cool skin that you could spend. You could spend $60 to make the boat, the literal floating like dumpster look really cool. It would look really cool, but yeah, or you could just build one of the better roads. So like, all right, so we've established Hite and Kieran here. Now let's move on to PD. Okay, so how do some of these others work? So like, are there any of these others that are just like grouped into groups here? So I'm seeing Gervish, I'm seeing Whom, and I'm seeing Macalod. Let's look at these next. Can you only have one of these?
No, it's you can run as many, unlimited, for those if you wanted to, but there's still the same like Whoms and Han Whoms. They still share this 2-set and 4-set bonus, but these just have additional stats over Han Whoms. And I've already calculated here. If you look, I added a little caption here to see what's the difference in total stats if you were to run 4 Han Whoms versus 4 ultimate Whoms. You would get 12 DR, 20 evasion, 100 HP over the Han Whoms, and then for the Macalods, it's 12 AP, 4% ignore res, 40 stamina, 8% combat XP, and then Gervish, you just get extra combat XP and weight.
So these are just objectively the better. Like you're just picking these. If you're already running Whoms, you're just getting 4 of these instead. If you're already running, Okay, Gervish is for specifically, I want you to power level me. I want you to power level.
guess so,
Also,
yeah.
having a Gervish set for your AFK books overnight, like your training books, super good. So I think it's cool to have crystals in the game that aren't necessarily for PvE or PvP. I mean, obviously it's PvE, but like you can AFK and get some get some use out of your crystals. Macalods, do you guys? All right, I'm gonna ask you this. This is a little off subject. As players, do you like Hooms or Macalods? Have you ever preferred one or the other? I'll go with Tiltus first.
I'm a Hoom believer through and through. I will always use Han Hooms. I use them now. I use them in everything. Have since they came out.
Not even on DK back in the day?
Okay, now on DK back in the day when they took our legs from us, I did run Macalods for a little bit.
There it is.
The stamina.
Okay, yes, sir. Also, you were already getting deleted by like paper mache. Like a fart in the wind could just blow you away. So you're like, screw it, just do more damage. Dead people can't kill me. Jacob, what do you run? Do you run any of these, or do you say no? I've already got enough gear.
I used to. So before they removed the restriction and Crystal Presets came out, I did run Hooms. I actually ran Hooms in my Beg's glove and in my main hand because I didn't use Elcars and Jin Vipers because I'm a witch, right? And witch doesn't really need extra accuracy, so I might as well take the extra defensive stats when I'm grinding places where I just want to survive more and I don't need the extra accuracy. But I think after these come out, I think I might start running Macalods, to be honest, because I was calculating, should I use 4 Macalods or 4 Power Crystals? And the 4 Macalods actually give a total of 22 AP over running 4 Power Crystals or Dark Red Fang Crystals. So it will be actually more AP, and also gives me extra stamina. Not that I need extra stamina. Maybe I might need extra stamina for my Shy. I do run out of stamina for my Shy when I run around in Olin, so this would be actually a pretty good PvE setup. I'd have to play around with the Crystal Planet more and Garmoth, so yeah. I do think Macalods will start getting more popular with this change.
I like the Macalod change and I like the Han Hoom change. They feel more relevant to today's crystals in comparison.
Okay. Right on. Okay, so like honestly, I like the max, but I'm still gonna run the Hooms, man. I'm just like, oh sweet, more HP, more of the stuff that I want.
More.
All right, more. That's right.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are these? Covert Dark Crystal, Frozen Cold Crystal, and Cruel Slaughter Crystal. Do you have to choose one of these? Are these one of these? Another one of these choices?
Cold crystals are in its own category. You can run 2 of these and stack with anything, so that's a lot of extra DR and evasion.
Yes, sir.
That you can get on top of whatever you can run already. Cruel Slaughter you can stack with anything as well, so I think that one's a no-brainer for just adding that looks like a Olin Valley crystal right there. And then for Covert Dark Crystals, it will be sharing category with additional damage increase, so like back attack crystals mainly, or corrupted crystals. So you have to choose between corrupted or Covert Dark Crystals. I feel like Covert Dark Crystal will have a niche for any places that you would want high uptime on back attacks. So lower Gyphins, Trolls, and Olins come to mind for this crystal. I don't know. I'm not really good at math and stuff. I don't know what would be better versus, I think corrupted in total will give 22% crit damage, right? And this would give 24% back attack, but I don't know the math behind it. I don't know what would be better. I'm sure somebody will do the work and then we can just mooch off them, so.
Big and Shiny is hard at work already for us. God bless that man. God bless that man. Okay, so you can run 2 of these, but you can only run 1 of the Phoenix tier, Kirin tier, Haite tier. But now you can run 2 of these and you can run all 4 of the other ones. Okay, so now I'm grasping this. Tiltus, what are your thoughts on this? What are you gonna run? Let's approach this honestly. PvE, we're obviously running. Well, that's not true. Okay. Jay already said he's running the Slaughter Crystal every time. He does not care. He's running 2 slaughters. But Tiltus, what are you running?
Let's see here. I played DK and I played Valk. I don't think I'm gonna do the Dark Crystals ever. I think the critical damage is just too much to give up for those classes. As far as the Frozen Cold Crystals, I like those a lot. Those look really nice for open world. I mean, you're getting an extra 20 DR or 24 evasion. I mean, that's significant, especially if you're doing an evasion build. I can see that being good. More ways to get evasion. And then the Cruel Slaughter is just seems like almost a no-brainer for PvE content. 110%.
All right, now I'm gonna go against the grain here and say, what the fuck are we out there, bro? The covert dark crystal, 12% back attack damage. tell me in your PvE, especially in a place like Olin's, okay? Tell me that 12% back attack damage is not outweighing 7 monster damage, right? And 1%, so 11% difference.
Oh, you can stack them. But if that wasn't clear, you can stack both of these.
Yeah, right. So 24% back attack. I feel like 22% back attack damage is going to outweigh 14 monster damage, and just 14 monster damage. At most, at some spots, maybe at like orcs and stuff, I could see the cruel slaughter crystal being better. But like at spots where you're just constantly jumping behind the mobs, like whether it be Histria for a low end player, not that they're necessarily going to have these crystals, but. The boss fights that we're gonna see, PD, we're probably gonna be getting behind them a lot, right? We're gonna see Olins,
that's where
right?
my thought process went, was to bosses. Yeah.
Are you ever running one of each? Like, I know you guys really like the cruel slaughter. The AP against monsters just seems like a little wet noodle to me compared to 24% back attack damage.
No, you can run both.
You can run both. That's what I was trying to say before. You can run both the covert dark crystals and the cruel slaughter crystals at the same time because they're separate categories.
Yeah.
So you can get a total of 26% back attack if you run both of these.
Yeah.
So you can run 2 covert dark crystals and 2 cruel slaughter crystals.
Cruel slaughter. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the frozen cold crystals that you have to choose versus frozen cold versus cruel slaughter.
No, that one's its own group too. You can run all 3 of these simultaneously.
You can run 2 of each of these?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2. Yeah.
Oh my god, but I only have like 12 slots, bro.
We will be getting 2 more additional crystal slots in the new region as well. So you will have a total of 16 with Garmoth as well. If you have your do you have your Garmoth?
Yeah,
I don't have mine yet, dude. I've been waiting.
Okay.
I've been waiting patiently.
Well, the rest of us non-casual players have our Garmoth swords.
Garmoth's never doing me anything, dude. He's a
same
bitch.
Yeah, I know. She's kind of a bitch, bro. There's nothing I can do about it. So you're definitely running 2 covert dark crystals in everything, right? Like in basically everything that you do. Because I feel like that the additional back attack damage, do you guys disagree? I feel like in every one of my builds, additional back attack damage is just a W. Cap content.
So what doesn't stack is corrupted and covert dark crystals. So you have to choose between 22% crit damage or the 24% back attack. So
that's what I was saying.
That's
so,
the
like,
issue.
I think in capped content, I think the corrupteds are still better. I think in PvE, the covert dark crystals are better. Is the way I'm looking at it right now. Things you can't. I don't know. 20% crit damage is nice. 20% extra crit damage is nice. Because you can crit all times, right? You have to be specifically behind them to get the back attack mods. So I don't know. Like I played DK and Dark Knight. Most of the time I'm looking people, or DK and Valk. Most of the time I'm looking people dead in their face for the most part. So, and PvP. And PvE, I think the additional back attack's really good for PvE because there's a lot of mobs you can't knock, or there's a lot of mobs that you can't knock down, so it just makes sense to go for their back. And I think the back attack damage is good there. I think for capped content though, I think I'm sticking with crits.
All right. J-Kun, what's your thoughts on that? Let's look at the covert first. Are you looking at covert or corrupted for which one? Now that I understand how it works, and I'm definitely caught up.
Probably, I'm going to be running covert for Olins and just corrupteds for any place that I might not have a lot of back attack in. So probably like Hex Sanctuary, I would probably run crit damage over back attack. Maybe I would also run it in let's say Ash Forest. You might not always get back attacks in Ash Forest, so I would run Corrupteds there over the back attack. And then anywhere else like Lower Gyphins, Trolls, Golems, I would probably run in Covert Dark Crystals. One interesting thing about the Legendary Crystals, because we can only run one of them, because you know how like everything is in 2s or 4s, right, for your crystal setup. because we can only run one legendary crystal, there's going to be like one spare crystal for like something, and I'm not sure what you would like pair this up with.
Oh god, dude, this is
just have to put something in.
There's too much variety now. I want to go back to the streamline. I want one fucking option that is objectively better. I was just joking. Oh my god, there's too many options now. A new player's gonna look at this and it's oh god, what do you even say, bro? Okay, so I think that I agree with most of your sentiment here. I think Corrupted's, if you're looking at specifically like Dark Knight is all about that crit damage, especially if you're in Awakening, everything crits. 100% crit across the board. And so Corrupted's are just going to be objectively better than just taking flat back attack damage. In most
I can
cases,
see an argument for Succession DK wanting the back attack crystals.
Yeah,
you spend a lot of time hopping around. But...
Correct, and you're a duelist. I could see that.
Yeah.
Chad did bring up a good point that Corrupted still have that minus DR on them. So
I was wanting to bring that up because I had that thought too. Like, does the minus DR actually, is it actually going to play a part in what you pick?
No.
Yeah, that was my thought too.
Because at a certain point, you're like, DR doesn't matter. More evasion. More evasion. I'm an evasion build. So like, I think that Covert Dark versus Corrupted is actually it's actually decent. I actually think that they balance that pretty well. You could choose one or the other and feasibly make a case for either one. Let's move on to the Frozen Cold Crystal. Are you ever running this in any content? Are you running the Frozen Cold Crystal over something else? Right, because you're taking out like Olukas and stuff, or it's like other damage stuff, or you have to take something out for it. Like, Jakun, what do you think? You're a hard cap player, so like,
I think it would. I would probably only use this in, like, just thinking in PvE standpoint. In the dungeon, that's the only place where I could think of. For just surviving, just to stay alive in the dungeon. Because
maybe
sometimes,
in the bosses too. Yeah.
Because I run with a lot of groups, and some groups are not as geared as the others, so you need a little bit more survivability to just.
What are you trying to say right now?
Keep going, keep the fight going. I've actually funny story. The other day, I was the only one left in the last phase of the second dungeon, and I was able to recover that entire run because I was just the only one alive, because I was running Perilla Star. I was running the Veil crystals, the Veil setup to get minus a total of 29% monster DR. So like that, just having more defensive stats in the dungeon was just so nice to be able to carry the group on my back. So
oh my god, so modest.
In terms of PvP,
someone get this man some
PvP. It seems like everything's, for the most part capped anyways. So in capped content, this would probably not be a good choice because there's no like percentage stats and no HP. If it did have HP, then the story would be different for PvP. But because it doesn't have any HP, I don't feel like this would be a popular option in capped content.
The flip side of that, in uncapped content.
Then
the extra evasion.
It seems like it would be very good.
Yeah, I could see you being able to play around with your evasion AP ratio with these crystals and uncapped content. So I could see those being used for evasion builds. Allow them to get evasion while getting AP from something else would be nice. So I could see that.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest with you, as a shot caller in uncapped that has a full DP set, I'm licking my chops looking at the Frozen Cold Crystal. I'm like, okay, this is my content, these are my people. Yeah, I'm absolutely running both of those in uncapped content. As the shot caller, I just have a giant sign pointing to me that says, please kill me, aim here. So like that's just gonna make it objectively the best crystal in uncapped for a DP meme build. This is definitely a best in slot crystal. You have to have two of those. It's a must-have for either build. And then so like we've introduced a concept here where like just because a crystal can't be used for everything or it isn't obviously the best at everything doesn't make it a bad crystal. I actually like the design of that crystal. It's for niche players with niche builds, but I actually think it's a really, really good option for those players. So I think it just makes those players just that much more tanky, bro. Mystics are just licking their chops at it. Okay, let's look at the Cruel Slaughter Crystal. Are you running this in all of your content or just PvE? Yeah, I'm thinking just PvE. I think.
Yeah, same.
Right.
I'm
You're just
thinking
running this in PvE.
bosses and monsters that you can't knock down. This is your crystal. So whatever mobs those are.
I don't know. 1% back attack damage seems kind of weak, bro.
Yeah.
Can't you just get better with like the not the Olucos, but the other one? You
Well,
get
if you are,
1% cast
so let's
attack
say-
speed with 7 monster damage. Like,
So I know a lot of people run the power crystals, which just gives 5 AP, right? So
Right.
this would be a direct upgrade to that, is what I'm thinking. For
Yeah,
those,
for
because some people
okay.
run like times.
Yeah.
Some people run like times 4, times 6, even times 8 power crystals, right? Because you can run unlimited of those plus 5 AP crystals.
Right.
So this is just a strictly better.
And this
of
is
that,
in that
because-
same category where there's an unlimited amount of them.
No, it's 2. You can only run 2.
Oh,
of
okay.
these.
This one is
Yeah,
2.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
2
So
is,
you're
but
like,
it's in its own category.
if I
so-
could
okay,
run
gotcha.
12 frozen cold crystals, you would never kill it. I would literally be Jesus, just walking through offense balls. You know, like we can't kill him. Like it would be impossible. Okay, I can see how that'd be useful. I probably actually won't use it for my PvE stuff because I don't really use the other stuff, and I like my current setup. Maybe I take out. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use the Cruel Slaughter. Covert, I can see. Frozen, I can see me using in certain builds. Cruel Slaughter, yeah, it's good. I don't use anything that just buffs my AP by itself. But I don't know. We'll see on the Witch. We will see there.
well, if you slot in one legendary, you have one open slot left, and maybe you slot in
Yeah, you
one
could slot
Cruel
this in.
Slaughter or something
Okay,
like
yeah,
that.
okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that for sure.
It's definitely a PvE specific crystal. I don't think it's useful in anything besides E. PvE.
Okay, so now we're gonna hit like the big hot button subject, bro. Okay, these crystals, and Jay, you were the one that brought this up, so I'm gonna give you first one on the floor for this. Let's look at the implications. He's like, oh god. Oh, what do you mean? I sent you the outline before. You know what I'm gonna say, Jay. Like what? They're hung in suspense. You should know. Like, dear homework. Evasion versus DR. Do you think that these crystals make one set objectively better than the other? Because this is always a constant struggle within the game. What is objectively better, evasion or DR? Which one do you think is better now without these crystals? And then which do you think will become even stronger with these crystals?
So I do think evasion is going to be significantly stronger after these crystals come out.
That's what we want to hear.
So, especially once, also at the same time, the new Dawn's Gloves is also going to come out. So that's going to be even more evasion when people get that to try and to tet Dawn's Gloves and, maybe pen one day. And so I do think afterwards, evasion is going to be the undoubtedly like super strong. But here's the thing, a lot of people are AP monkeys, and I think DR is way better for stacking more damage than evasion, in my personal opinion. Like if you just wanted to be an AP monkey, I think most people go DR for that specific setup, right? And so that's kind of like, I think what direction you want to go. You want to go more damage, or sorry, my freaking chat just forgot to turn off my my freaking. Hopefully you didn't hear that. But if you go DR, you have more choices for building more damage, and if you go evasion, you're gonna be tankier, but less. You're gonna have less damage. I think that's like kind of how it is currently, and how it will stay in the new region, in my personal opinion. So.
Okay, so you think evasion is going to be stronger? What do you think, Tiltus?
Yeah, so my curiosity with this is this going to buff hybrid builds? Because I can definitely see you being able to make a way more effective hybrid build with this, where you're stacking evasion to a certain limit and then you're stacking your AP on top of that. I think DR is just arguably just in the gutter with this crystal update. Evasion is just going to be so much better, and it makes me curious if we're going to see. They're buffing evasion so much, it feels like, with these crystals, that I wonder if we're going to see any kind of resurgence in accuracy accessories with this. Because I could see, well, more commonplace.
This guy does not fight Show Nation. that guy right there does not fight Show Nation, bro. He has no idea.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. If you'll see them more commonplace, like you'll just see more accuracy accessories just floating around a lot more. Because like I only do capped content. I have no reason to buy accuracy accessories ever. So this does make me curious. I wonder if did they change any of the caps in Node War for KR with the crystal with this new expansion or no?
No, I think they're still the
I
same.
don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because DR is still king in cap content, right? Even in T3s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still capped. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I mean, like DR is better than evasion in T3s, right? Because it's your evasion's capped relatively. Low,
I
right?
mean, like, as long as you meet both caps, nothing is better than anything. As long as you're meeting both caps.
Yeah.
I will say that as an evasion build, it's much tougher to meet the DR cap if you're an evasion build, but if you're, like, maxed out on an evasion build, it's not going to matter. Versus if you're maxed out on a DR build.
Okay. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion as an evasion player looks balanced to me, baby. Looking good, Jay. No, evasion I think is definitely super stacked, bro. I think evasion is just better. With these crystals, I think it's tough to balance DR because you're not just looking at the DR stat. Evasion, all you really have to look at number bigger good, you know, like one number and then you're good. You're just looking at evasion specifically. But when you're looking at DR, you have to look at how much accuracy is actually coupled with it. So like, are you getting enough accuracy to bring that evasion tankiness down while you're getting enough DR, right? Like, so it's a delicate balance. And I think that people are definitely going to need many more accuracy accessories. I think that you're no less than 2 accuracy accessories in a final end game build at this point with these crystals is actually going to be super viable. Now, to be clear, like Jay said, a lot of players are still going to be DR. So like really, you could just say, and I'm just gonna kill every DR player, and then when I meet someone, when I meet someone that I can't hit, I just they're an agent in the Matrix. What's the strategy for them? You just run away.
True.
Right? Like you just, when you meet one of the agents, you just run away, but you're able to kill everything else. So like there's definitely a strategy that kind of goes into it. That was my strategy as a Dark Knight for many years. The Mystic was an unstoppable force, and I was the movable object. Extremely movable object in her path. So like, I don't know, I think evasion is just going to be objectively better when the crystals come out. Right now, as of like this moment, I don't really feel like one is necessarily better than the other. I know that some players feel very strongly about it, but I will say that like right now, depending on what class you are or whatever, I actually think it's in a pretty good spot. I think with these crystals, we're going to have to see an introduction of just a little bit more accuracy to the game overall. Just to make sure that evasion stays in line, because I feel like I'm looking at frozen cold crystals and high tays, and I'm like, whoo, that's gonna be a little rough on everyone. So, yeah, okay. Any final thoughts on crystals before we move on to our next subject here?
I don't think so. I think we covered these crystals.
I think we covered it
pretty good.
Yeah, we nailed this. Nice work, guys. Proud of you. All right.
Give ourselves a nice pat on the back on the way out.
Okay, so one of the next things that I know that Jay-Kun brought up that he kind of wanted to look at is, are we R spammers, or do we listen to the main storyline? And what makes kind of good questing? So we'll go around the circle and explain why we spam R for every quest. Tiltus, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so this is actually funny because I really want to sit down and just play through the story of BDO. I haven't done it since the game came out. So I'm an R spammer now, but it is on my list of things to do to go through the story and actually just understand it for what it is. So I'm an R spammer, 110% currently. That's all I've ever been.
Right on. Okay, Jay-Kun, you PvE lord son of a bitch. Why do you listen to literally everything? Go ahead.
No, I used to be an R spammer. So you kind of have to R spam for, do you know the 30,000 quest reward? You get 300.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're not reading it every time.
Yeah.
But the first time.
I still wasn't R spammer in the first time because I didn't really care about the lore in the beginning. But after doing like 25,000 quests, I was like, let's do one character that I just actually listen to the whole story, understand the story of BDO. And the story is actually pretty interesting. You just, unfortunately, a lot of people skip it, and also you have to kind of go out of your way to understand the lore as well. But the recent Magnus storyline was kind of crazy if you listen to the lore. It starts getting to like multiverse stuff, which is really interesting. What were you gonna say?
No, so I think there's a fundamental problem with BDO's current lore system. I know that a lot of people like really like the BDO lore, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it is pretty good. But like the biggest thing that the BDO's missing is like a really engaging storyline. If you play like these other games like World of Warcraft and stuff, you really get like invested in one side or the other. There isn't like one inherently bad person, and there isn't like one like inherently good person. What they start to do over time is they start to make it look like morally like questionable on either level, so you can kind of like feasibly go with either side. So you have like the Horde that does good and bad things, and then you have the Alliance that does good and bad things too. And I think that Riot Games does this really well with their lore as well. In League of Legends, I think that like you don't have very many characters that are just objectively bad characters. Like Lissandra is like holding back the Watchers on her own, like, but she's like this evil ice witch, right? Like, so like I think that BDO is missing like that fundamental like capturing aspect of the game that I think would draw a lot of players in. It's just a gripping storyline. Now they've started to kind of get there. They have the good foundations here where like their lore system is really intricate and everything, and no one's really read all of it, but like it seems like it's really good. But like part of making a good storyline is motherfucker, we don't want to read. Like you gotta say it to us. You gotta say it to us. The voice acting must be there. Like, if you don't have clean voice acting and like good cutscenes, no one is gonna care what your storyline says. We're all just gonna keep hitting R and going through it, even if it's the best storyline in the world. So the first step to making good questing was, okay, we need voice acting, and I think that they've hit that. Now I would like to see much better cutscenes, like really good cutscenes, and I would like to see like an engaging like, okay, I'm on Team Valencia, or I'm on Team Caltheon, or I'm on Team, you know, like, I want to feel attached to one of the cities or one of the regions at like a fundamental level. And I feel like they've kind of grasped at this for a while. And Mountain of Eternal Winter really kind of made you feel that way. If you listen to like the whole quest line, you start to feel like this, they're starting to move in this direction where they want you to like feel emotionally about their territories, which is good. That is a good step in the right direction, but we're still not quite there yet. I want you to pit me against, I don't even want to look at those Valencian scum. You know what I mean? Like that's how I want to feel, right? So I don't know. I feel like that they've missed this for years with their lore, but I feel like they've taken steps to move in the correct direction. They've made questing engaging, which is like one aspect of questing that's fun. So with the Magnus questline, for example, that was an extremely engaging questline. Long, admittedly, but I think most people would agree it was a good questline. But it wasn't good because it captured your imagination. Yeah, I know Jakun had just brought up for a moment that like it sends you into the multiverse. But we don't know, like we don't fucking care, bro. We're moving across the world. It's like I don't know. It wasn't like it captured my attention. It was like, oh, that was a cool mechanic. I'm glad they added that to the quest. So like they got the mechanics down. I feel like they've got the voice acting right, and I feel like they're missing like that gripping, engaging storyline. And so I'm really hoping with this new expansion. As I turn to my next question here, I'm really hoping with this new expansion, there's like 100 or 200 minutes of voice acting in the new expansion. And I will say that they've put out, if you go to the Black Desert online like channel, they've got like Musa and Megu videos that are like all the lore surrounding those, and they talk to you about it. It's very soothing. It's like really cool. So I'm thinking that they're starting to get there. I mean, are you guys excited for this storyline, or are you just gonna R-spam straight through it because you gotta turbo your way through the content? Tiltus, why don't you go first, because I let Jacob go first last time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. Right now, I'm not excited at all. Also, the cutscenes are
He's like, how many hours? Motherfucker.
The cutscenes are unskippable, which I think was a mistake for some of the player base, because I know there's people that don't care at all. They just want to play the game. I'm not excited right now. I do, before the expansion comes out, I do want to play through all the story on a character from start to finish and actually understand what's going on in this game. So maybe by the end of that, I'll be a little bit more excited, or I'll be like, I'm never going to be excited about another lore expansion ever. So we'll see what happens. I feel like it'll be one of two extremes.
Ken Jim, thanks for that reprime 5 months, buddy. You're a hero. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I
Also,
thought the voice acting in
Crab
Knight
in-
of Eternal
hey, girl,
Winter
hi,
was
thanks for that
really
follow.
good and entertaining. That's one that actually interested me, and like I enjoyed that one. So I'll be excited to see what the voice acting can do for the new zone.
Okay, and Jacob?
Yeah, I am super excited for this expansion because it's a very PvE focused expansion, and I'm all about PvE, and
Yeah,
I'm
you
all
are,
about
baby.
lore and video.
As your average apocalypse player, yeah, you are, baby.
Yeah, I'm
Throwing shade at no
also,
impact there.
because like a lot of the stuff is like sort of time gated, like loot is time gated. I feel like, you know, the silver lining for that for me is that because I'm not pressured to like hard, like when Mountains of Eternal Winter came out, I like hard grinded for the flame, right? But this time I don't really have too much pressure to hard grind because I just need to do my clears of the bosses and then I can just focus on other things. And so I kind of like that. That's like the silver lining for me. That for the time gated, I would, you know, I would be more leaning towards actually being able to hard grind because I'm a hard grinder.
Yeah, you are.
I'm definitely going to take my time to enjoy the story. And unfortunately, it will be unskippable. Like cutscenes will be unskippable from what I've heard, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing, and it will help the player base, you know, be more invested into the story rather than being able to. Would you have preferred it to be skippable?
I think that it's very similar to. Okay, so let me throw something out there for you. If you're a new player and you see a guild advertisement recruitment message, and one of the guild advertisement recruiters says they both say active community, super active Discord, but underneath one of them it says you must join Discord call when you're online. Which one of those guilds are you gonna join? You're gonna join the one that doesn't require you to be in the Discord call because you don't necessarily want to be forced to join the Discord call all the time, but you want to have the option to join the Discord call, right? So like, I think it's very similar to that in that you should not force your player base to watch your cutscenes. They should want to watch your cutscenes. They should want to join Discord, right? You make it so engaging, so fun, and so cool for them every time they do join Discord or every time they do watch the cutscene that they don't want to miss it. That's the approach that you take. Don't force us to watch 150 hours of cutscenes, bro. What are you doing? Like, I think that like it's, I don't know. It almost feels like they're hate fucking us. They're like, God damn it, you will what? We spent good money and time on this content. You will like it, or we will turn this game around. Like, I feel like they absolutely are just like, I don't know. They're angry that people constantly. They're like, they keep saying that our quests suck, but we promise that if you watch them, then you will know that they don't suck. No, let me go through it. They suck. Like, make it good and I won't skip it. Like, that's the solution. You know what I mean? I don't know. So like, I never like being forced in a sandbox MMO to do anything, and that includes questing. I want to quest. I'm an RPer at heart. Honestly, almost all BDO players are. Right? Bro, I was a dungeon master in like 4 or 5 campaigns that I created from scratch myself. I love this stuff, man. I love getting invested. Are you kidding me? Have you ever heard me shotcall J-Kun? Half the time I'm quoting like Gladiator or like Lord of the Rings. I'm like, Sons of Gondor, you know, like, but I'm Sons of Calbion. I'm basically RPing that whole time. I love RPing, so I have potential to absolutely love questing. But like, you gotta make it engaging, man, and don't force me to do it because then I'm automatically, it's gonna make me hate it. If you force me to do something, I'm gonna hate it. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about our spamming and questing, we are, 2 of us are excited for the new expansion, but we're also very hesitant. Do you think that quests as a general rule, let's field quests first. Do you think that quests are good as weekly gated content? I'm looking at the Barrier of Infestation as a good example, where you can only do 1 a week and you gotta get through 5 weeks, right? Did you find that monotonous and tedious, or did you like that? Jacob?
I kind of like that. I kind of like that you weren't you didn't feel pressure to have to do everything right away, and that there's like this little errand you got to do every week, and so like it puts into like bite-sized pieces. And so I kind of like the time gated questing, so that you feels like you are you're not overwhelmed by because if you guys weren't aware that there's about 10 hours of questing in the new region, and also on top of that there's new journals that is also about 10 hours, so there's like 20 hours of stuff to do. And so I mean, obviously you can take a break yourself, like you can take a break yourself, you don't have to, like, you have the option to time gate yourself, but this sort of yeah, again, you don't get overwhelmed. I feel like that's like the silver lining for it, is that you won't get overwhelmed if it is time gated. But I could see like going back to your point of having the player have the option to, right? I do also agree that having the player to choose to want to keep going, like if you actually make a really engaging story, they would want to keep going, they would want to quest for those 10 hours, you know. So I'm kind of on the fence ish, to be honest. So
Tiltus?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest. Time gated is dog shit.
I knew you were gonna say. I knew he was just holding it in. I knew you just. Oh man, just let me in.
So I actually think the way Final Fantasy and WoW both do their expansions is really good. So the way they do it is they release the expansion. That's where the bulk of the story happens, and you play through it and you do all this stuff and you get through the story. And those are both like mostly quest driven games when the first expansion first launches, and then they do a post expansion patch, and then you get like the backup of the story. You get all the stuff that happens after the main story. So like, in my opinion, they should focus, the first half should be really engaging and really interesting and very like high octane, and then the back half should be, okay, well, here's all the other additional stuff that happens after or behind the scenes, or it explains this character's motives, or blah 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 blah. But that should be the time gated thing that you look at, not, oh, here's a quest, you got to do this, but you're only allowed to do it once a week, here you go. I think time gated stuff in MMOs is just, it's mobile gamey to me, and I don't like that. Anything, any time gated stuff is mobile gamey to me.
So I think what's happening here is I think they're looking at their competitors. I think they're looking at their primary competitors, and I think that they're saying, okay, Destiny does weekly time gated content so that people don't just plow straight through all of their content and then stop playing their game. Because Destiny has to do that, because they only actually release about 45 minutes of new fucking content with every $60 expansion, and they really need to slow that down so you can only do 10 minutes a day of actual meaningful shit. But and then you have Lost Ark as well, where like players in Lost Ark, I hear constantly complaining about how basically everything is weekly gated. So you just log into the game, you do your weeklies, then you log out. But these are two of BDO's primary competitor games, and so I think that this is Perlibus kind of looking at this, going, okay, what if we just like weekly gate some of our content and see how the player base reacts to that, see how we do playtime wise, because see, they have data that we can't possibly fathom. But I'll be honest, I think that they made this weekly gated content simply because their competitors are doing weekly gated content, and it seems to work for them. But I would argue that's what makes those games dog shit. Like, that's what makes you log out of Lost Ark, bro. It's because you're throttled so hard. Part of what I think makes BDO so good is that I want to just keep doing their shit endlessly. Like, I remember my brother came over and was like, he's watching me grind Histria for the very first time. He's like, oh wow, this is cool. And then, like, I'm not joking, a year and a half later, he comes back and he's staying at my apartment, and he's like, is that the same place? And I was like, yes. And he's like, so what is this like therapeutic for you? I'm like, shut up. I didn't even know I still had 3.5 years left. Like, but like, I liked that I could just dive in and keep doing it, even if it wasn't meaningful and it was soul crushing and life destroying. I still liked that I had the choice to do it. Like, this weekly gated content stuff almost makes me be a responsible adult and like stop playing the game for a while, which I'll be honest with you, it's not kind of what I'm about when I want to play BDO. When I want to play BDO, I want to sink my teeth in and just like be a degenerate. You know, I'm an adult everywhere else in my life. When I log in, I want to do what I want to do, and I want to do it the whole time, with no exceptions. I don't want to be gated on it. So like, I see both sides of the argument here, but like, I don't think that there's a lot of people that think that it'll kill the game, blah blah blah. I don't think it's gonna kill the game. I don't think it's gonna bother it because there's so much extra content that you can do outside of the weekly content that we're gonna be just fine. The problem in Lost Ark when it first came out, people hit the end game and then they could only do their weeklies for meaningful progression. And there just wasn't enough content to keep people playing the game. In BDO, you have plenty of content to keep you playing the game, and then you have these weekly things that you can do. Now, at first, it's going to feel like the weeklies are required, which is going to be really annoying. I don't like being required to do weeklies, but I think that after a while, once you start getting your gear and things settle down, it will become an option, a lot like the dungeon. A lot of people were very upset that the dungeon, I said dungeon and Jakins, I saw those raccoon ears just... Oh man, he just perked up. Like a lot of people think that the dungeon is just like they didn't like that the dungeon was time gated by this weekly content already. And I'm gonna let Jakun talk on this. Jakun, do you, as someone that runs the dungeon at least 11 times daily, do you feel like the dungeon would be stronger content if it wasn't weekly gated, or do you like the fact that it's weekly gated?
I do like the fact that it's weekly gated because it relieves you. So how do I word it? It's kind of like I don't feel pressured to. Sorry, I'm really bad with my words. So let's say the dungeon made you like $1 bill an hour, right, or something, or like $2 bill an hour. Then I would feel more inclined to run it, and then I would hate it because I'm like I feel like I'm forced to run it because it makes me $2 bill an hour, you know. But with the weekly, I can just run my 2 or 1 or 2 runs for the loot boxes and get potentially up to 10 bill worth of loot one time for spending only like 1 hour. Like if you have a really efficient group, you can clear all 3 on the hardest difficulty, 45 minutes to an hour, depending on your group thing. And then I feel rewarded for that. And I always, I run it multiple times, even though I don't get that much extra rewards. You do get some Caphras, a little bit of Lightstones, so about maybe 150 mil per boss kill. So you get a little bit of something for running it extra. But for me, it's actually just like the feeling of me helping my friends. That's why I keep running it like 11 times a week or 11 times a day, as you were mentioning before. But yeah, the weekly time gate, I think it's a really, really important thing for the dungeon for that matter. If anything, if people would want something to improve, if I want something to improve in the dungeon, maybe a little bit more weekly stuff in the loot just to make it more enticing. But I definitely think that the time gate is really important for the weekly dungeon, for the dungeon to be weekly rather. So
yeah, I mean,
I can agree with that. I think most games, the high-end PvE content is gated, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
Like I said, I think that they're just looking at their competitors and they're just saying we're just going to do it better because we have more content in our game. So like our players will do the weekly content and then keep playing our game, but your game is just doomed because all they've got is the weekly content. And I think I think that they're not wrong. I think that initially it's going to really suck that it's weekly gated and players are going to bitch, whine, and moan about it, and we're going to drag our feet as is tradition. But I think after a while, just like the dungeon, I think it'll settle down. And I think that people like Jakun who like to run the dungeon all the time actually can run the dungeon more frequently because he can constantly pick new people to run the dungeon with, because everyone needs to run the dungeon like once a week, or doesn't need to, but like should and can run the dungeon once a week. So it makes it a little easier to find groups in that regard as well. So, okay. All right. So now we're going to pivot a little bit more as we get into our topics a little bit. Tiltus, you wanted to talk about this, and this is a tough subject, so I'm going to let you field it first. Is BDO's PvP inherently toxic? Well, we're going to start off with that initially. Do you think BDO PvP is just inherently toxic?
So this is a fun question to me because I've been paying close attention to Ashes of Creation. ArcH also had the same system, I believe, where you've got this karma system that prevents you from griefing other players. So yes, but also no at the same time. I think anytime you have players competing against one another head to head, there's always going to be some toxicity. I mean, look at like League of Legends. It's the most toxic game on the face of the planet for a reason, because the whole game is nothing but constant PvP. So I think it is inherently toxic, but I think there's ways to regulate it. Like and this is a bad example because Final Fantasy's PvP is dog shit, but there's not toxicity in a Final Fantasy 14's PvP. It doesn't really exist. There's like very some minor stuff, but nothing crazy from my experience with it.
It also sucks.
Yeah,
so
it does also suck. It does also suck. Like the player base for Final Fantasy 14 PvP is not large. It was enjoyable for a little bit when I did it, but so I think that yes, I think BDO's PvP is just inherently toxic, and I think that may be one of the major reasons why Perlibus is almost trying to move away from PvP being the main focus of their game, because I think it is toxic. I think it does cause players to leave the game.
Okay, we've heard from a pretty hardcore PvPer. Let's hear from the hardcore PvEer. J-Kun, what do you think? Is PvP inherently toxic in BDO?
So, I may or may not have mentioned this many times, but I used to be an Awakening Witch main, and so I was constantly just bullied out of my spot.
He's been in the trenches, man. He's having flashbacks.
Grab classes, and so honestly, I became a happier person when I stopped fighting people and just running away and just minding my own business. So I do feel I am more leaning towards, yes, yeah, I do think, PvP is toxic, but there have been times where I actually really enjoyed PvP. Examples, before the RBF system was channel based. Before the RBF system had its own like separate channels, RBF was channel based, right? And so in my past guilds, we would be like, after some sort of event, or we were like hosts or something, we would all go into RBF and just have like dick around in RBF, and that was like the most fun I've ever had in video. Whenever you just go into your RBF with your guildies and just screw around, and you're just all in Discord together laughing and having fun. That's the most fun for me in PvP. But when you are fighting other guilds and becomes, it's not, what I was doing before was not competitive, right? But when it does become competitive, I think that's where it starts becoming toxic, is when you add competitiveness to it. And so because BDO's PvP is very competitive, that's where just toxicity is just naturally there. So
okay, again, I'm not just saying this just to disagree with you guys fundamentally. I don't think that it's the PvP that's toxic, and I don't think that you should confuse competitive nature and competitive games with toxicity. It's okay to be competitive and non-toxic. Like the two can coincide. Yes, competitiveness brings out toxicity in players, but I'm gonna be honest with you, there's this thing called a block button. That you can just turn all of that off, and in games like League of Legends, you can just block people, or I just have chat turned off. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I love being competitive in League. I actually just cannot play the game if I'm not playing to like win at the fullest possible medal. I must be competitive, and that's part of what. And then seeing the chat, seeing these degenerates try to tell me that they're good at the game in chat, that's what made me toxic, bro.
I'm the same way.
Right. So, but once I turned off the chat, the game was no longer toxic to me. I didn't like. I would get angry at it because I was competitive, but I wasn't being toxic to other players. And the toxicity wasn't getting to me. I was being competitive though, and there's a difference. And as somebody that has been screaming at his guild members for years, I would argue that a lot of the screaming that I do, it can be viewed in two different regards, right? Some people are just like, oh my god, Blue Squad is the toxic shot caller. And then other people are like, oh my god, Blue Squad, he's the funniest shot caller I've ever seen. Right? I think it actually is a pretty good example of something where I'm trying to be competitive, but I am not trying to be toxic. Some people see it as toxicity because I am competitive, but it's not. It's really just that I'm trying to be competitive, and screaming at people, to be honest with you, sometimes makes them fall out of their chair because of what I'm saying. Right? So like, I don't feel like PvP is inherently toxic, but I do think that competitive nature breeds toxicity, but you can just turn that off.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally no reason to have to listen to that. My block list is like, I had to remove people from my block list because there's actually a limit, as it turns out, to how many people you can actually have on your block list. Which I think should be removed. If I'm being entirely honest, to the GMs listening, please remove that. I want to block more people. Yeah. But like
now,
oh, go ahead.
I want to Can I jump in? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say I think it is a breeding ground for toxicity. I think you're right. There's a difference between being competitive for the sake of competition and being competitive and then being toxic when things don't go your way. Now, that being said, like Jake said, some of my fondest memories in BDO
29
are
Sierra,
PvP related, almost
33.
exclusively.
Thanks for that follow.
I loved like permadex are some of the best content in the game. They're so, especially on guilds that are like permadex from guilds that are way stronger than you aren't fun, or guilds that are way weaker than you is like fun for like a week. But guilds where you're like neck and neck in strength is some of the most fun content in the game. Like every time I look back on BDO, it's the montages of GVGs and PvP and stuff like that that make me really enjoy BDO and make me want to come back.
Okay. Jake, do you have anything to add to that before I'm gonna hit you guys with a banger question? It's really controversial, but it's kind of a banger.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So in the past, I think that part of where all of this stems from is our content creators. In the past, our content creators have seen PvP as the only way to get PvP content is to be overwhelmingly negative all the time, whether you're hunting down members or you're shit talking them on stream. A good example of this is Lakari. Lakari was just, wow, that man was just a walking like a hive of toxicity. Now, don't get me wrong, it was amazing content, but like I feel that lately Shaky Bay is also a good example of somebody that thrives on kind of that negative, like I'm gonna shit talk you and montage you all the time, and it's gonna make you feel bad, and it's gonna get you angry, and then it's gonna get you to come out and fight me, which of course is gonna give me more content strategy. We have some content creators still like that in the category, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that those content creators are a lot less successful than the non-toxic if you exclude Lakari. If you exclude Lakari, who's no longer with us and hasn't been with us for like 5 or 6 years, I think that the non-toxic content creators who do PvP content, I would consider myself a more non-toxic content creator, despite the fact that I scream at people. Choice is a good example of a non-toxic PvP content creator. Who's another good example? Biseptimus Prime. Frosty is another good one. It's not like they sit up on stream shit-talking people regularly, but they do a lot of PvP in their content, or at least they talk about PvP all the time. I think that the category has shifted away from that toxic nature, and I think that the content creators that do focus on that negative PvP content, I think they've just steadily declined overall, and because people just don't want to deal with that shit after a while, man.
Yeah.
Like people just don't want to, like that inherent like PvP has to be toxic or there's no content. That is gone. Like that whole mentality as a content creator is gone, and we've kind of ushered in this new age in the last few years where like Choice is dominating the category and showing everyone how positive you can be, how fun PvP can be. You can just laugh, right? A good example of this, I'll use myself here. Fun Day Mondays. Fun Day Mondays, you could technically view Fun Day Mondays as a toxic environment, but most of the time you're just laughing your ass off. And you're just laughing and having a good time, and you're learning PvP there. Choice does a great job of it. Frosty does a great job of it. Even J-Kun, when he streams Siege, he's laughing. You're laughing and you're having a good time. Tiltus, you're having a great time with your PvP too, and you don't encourage toxic behavior either, right? And I think all of these streamers are just doing objectively better than their counterparts. J-Kun, what do you feel like? You're another BDO partner. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you say, that there has been a lot more positive PMA streamers doing PvP content. To be honest, when I go to I don't go to Siege to PvP. I just go to Siege to get yelled at by men. So,
boy,
to be honest.
How have we never been in the same guild? If that's your purpose, I'm gonna be honest, like, how has this never happened? Right? Like, but I think
I do agree with everything you've said. There's a lot more positive streamers, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
All right, so we can segue this into, so if the content creators at the top of the category are all spreading like a really positive message, I think that this inherent like PvP is toxic like mentality has kind of died over the years. years ago when I was on the T1 scene, oh my god, bro, like it was, I know Tiltus loves those permadex and loves being harassed in the T1 Discord all the time. That was mentally berating, bro. That was like the worst time ever. I hate it when we are hard beefing with another guild. I know that other people love that content. I hate it because it weighs on my mental as the leadership in the guild. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I definitely don't like that, but I will say that over like as the years have progressed, the content creators have become less toxic, and I think that that reflects on the community. And I think that the community as a whole has been less toxic. But I do think that Perlibis, a big part of why the toxicity has come down over the years, moving away from the content creators a little bit, is that they've gotten a lot more strict about banning people. If you say anything at all remotely, and people report you, you're done. You're chat banned, you're banned, and I think it's gotten way better since PA took over. Like I don't see very many TOS words in my chat anymore, and so like most of the rest of the chat PvP I can handle. So like, do you feel like they need to be stricter with bans, or there needs to be a better ban system? Like, is it too hard to report people? Is that part of the reason why the community is too toxic? We have this report function in game, by the way, that like has never worked in the history of the universe. Like, but yeah, Tilt is
I think you're 100% right. I think since Perlibis has taken over, and I think they've tried to root out some of the toxicity that's existed in the game for a long time. I think a lot of that is gone now. I think culturally things have changed a lot in the last 6 years. I mean, you think about 6 years ago, it was a lot more accepted to say a lot more words than it is now, socially, not on a individual basis, just socially. So I think a lot has changed. I think a lot of things have led up to that. The report function needs to be fixed. Why is that still broken?
It's never worked. As far as I'm aware, it is literally since the game's creation, it's never worked. Like you're inviting someone to platoon and, well, I accidentally reported you.
Yeah, I think there was supposed to be an item attached to it at some point, or I don't know what it was, but yeah, fix that. It's silly. There's people in the game that don't want to see super toxic messages, and when they pop up, they should have the ability to report them. I do think it's gotten way better, and I don't think permadex are necessarily tied to bad toxicity. There's like a fine line that you. There's
Black Rose. There's Black Rose members in the chat going, "We hate it."
Yeah, there's a fine line I think that you can strike with like permadex and stuff like that, where it's not toxic to the degree of berating the people in the other guild. It's toxic because somebody in this other guild fed your guy to mobs, and now you're beefing over this thing, and now you're having these GVGs and they erupt all over the place. Like that's the kind of content I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about like, well, this guy said this one thing to me, and now, fuck that guy permanently forever. Not that kind of content, because that's still toxic. But if that makes sense, that's kind of what I'm imagining when I think of permadex. Is less of fuck that guy specifically, and more of like, oh, this beef happened between our guilds, and now we're feuding over it, and like that kind of stuff.
There are definitely two types of permadex that make. If there's one type of permadex, I'm going to use BR and Cho Nation as an example, where you have one guild that is very clearly stronger than the other guild, and they're making sure that the weaker guild just does not get to play the game. And I think that there is a line when like you just have to stop and say, okay, we're killing our own PvP scene. If we berate these people too much. Now a lot of people can say that BR asked for it, but like also. Like, that's just a good example for where, like, I don't know, man. People take it way too far. Permadex are just, most of the time, are just overwhelmingly toxic, in my opinion. Like, you should, I don't know. Does APOC have any permadex? I don't think that Pax and Noah give enough of a shit. No, I feel like would just take it down accidentally when he was drunk one afternoon. But, like, does Notorious have any?
Doesn't seem like it from what I've seen here, no. We only have, like, a couple hundred kills or deaths here. I'm assuming permadex will have like thousands and thousands of deaths and kills, right? So it doesn't seem like it.
Right. So yeah, like APOC's a good example. They've been around for forever, and honestly, I don't ever remember them having a perma deck. I remember them having decks that stood up for a long time, whether it be Vertex or whatever, but like they weren't permanent. Versus like the Cho BR, which just stood. Vertex BR. It was there. Like the numbers was in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of players. It was absolutely obnoxious. So like And for little guilds that are developing, I think that's really
Oh, yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it can be
I think
brutal.
it's really
Yeah,
bad.
I
Like
agree.
because new leadership doesn't know how to handle that kind of pressure. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about Show Nation decking like a life scaling guild. I'm talking about two like clashing smaller guilds. Let's say that Ghost and Epidemic were beefing with each other like super hard, and the deck came out. I think that it just hinders. It puts too much pressure on the leadership cores of both guilds,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, and I think it hinders new player progression too much, and I think that it kills more guilds than it helps. So I know that some people really love that kind of like super drama, like we're gonna be super toxic all the time content, but it feeds into this PvP is inherently toxic subject, and it also
Yeah.
feeds into why we can't keep players in our PvP scene. Like that, if you want to keep players in a PvP scene, make PvP fun for your players.
Yeah.
You can't make PvP fun for their players if they're just getting absolutely blasted off of centaurs every time they try to go grind, right? So
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Okay, I think we've touched on the PvP toxicity at this point. Does a healthy, so let's pivot over to, does a healthy PvP scene indicate a healthy game, and vice versa? Tiltus, again, this was your subject, so why don't you
Yeah.
field it first?
So I think now healthy can mean a couple of things, right? We can mean like non-toxic, or we can mean just like there's a good balance in the game and the game is enjoyable to play in a PvP sense. Obviously, we've already talked about toxicity. There's no reason to go over that again. But I think that a good PvP scene does not actually indicate if the game is doing well. And I think Final Fantasy is a great example of that. Now, I think a healthy game will have a healthy PvP scene, but I don't, if that makes sense. Like you don't have to have good PvP to have a good game, but if you have a really good game, you'll have good PvP in it that's taken care of and well balanced, if that makes sense. Would you guys agree with that? Or
Yeah, Jake, why don't you field it first? Do you think a healthy PvP scene equals a healthy game?
Healthy game. Well, I feel like there's so many other factors that makes a game considered a healthy game, and there's many different definitions of a healthy game. For example, I mean, we touched on this on Final Fantasy 14. Like the PvP scene there is not that good, but I would say it's a very healthy game, very successful game now.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I don't agree with that question. So,
I think that for BDO specifically, because BDO is different, it's not like the other girls.
right? Yeah.
BDO is very different, and for an extremely long time, we still don't have our end game PvE content. So for our state of the game, I think that a healthy PvP scene absolutely indicates a healthy game for BDO specifically. For other MMOs, I agree with you guys. I think that Final Fantasy, whose PvP scene sucks, yeah, nobody cares. Arcade is a pretty good example of a game that relies pretty heavily on its PvP, but like most other MMOs, you don't really need to worry about the PvP scene as much. But in BDO, for like the last 7 years that the game's been a thing, the only end game is PvP. So if PvP is struggling, there is no end game.
Yeah.
So I do think that it really does matter. It really does like mean the difference between having a healthy game and not having a healthy game. Now, well,
I think
okay,
BDO,
good.
I think BDO may be the outlier in that situation. Because BDO is so heavily PvP based, I think you need to have healthy PvP to have a healthy BDO. The way they're going, I could see them eventually one day in the future being like, PvP's whatever, the rest of the game's great. I think a really fantastic and good game will have healthy PvP though. Like, I think all aspects in a perfect world, in a perfect game, all aspects of the game would be balanced perfectly, and you would have good PvP, good PvE, good life skills, and the game would just be fantastic all around. I think it's the one thing Final Fantasy lacks, and I think it's why so many players from BDO didn't latch on to Final Fantasy super hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, like, no matter who you are, you eventually have to PvP, but we're kind of trending away from that. And I think the developers are trending away from that because they're like, okay, well, if we make other end game content for them, then if the PvP scene is struggling, the game isn't struggling. But right now, like we had like a chokehold on like their content. They're like, we hate this game. And they're like, but you have 200,000 hours. They're like, we hate it.
The classic Steam review.
Right, exactly. So like, I think that the PvP scene has had kind of a chokehold on the game state for a long time, but I think as the new expansion comes out and we start moving away from that, I think you guys are absolutely right. I think that we will enter this game state where, okay, an angry PvP scene is not the end of the world. But developers do not have to drop everything they're doing to constantly make the PvP scene happy, or they're going to lose half their player base. So like I do like that shift over to PvE. Now you did bring this up. This is an interesting question. Should PvP be tied to PvP more than it is currently? Now, let me ask one question first. Do you mean like Gambit?
No.
Okay, so what do you mean?
So what I mean is, like, if you think of the game in 3 sections, right? You have PvP, you have PvE, and you have life skills. This is, again, we're talking about a perfect game here, but all aspects of the game should be balanced equally to where you can do one thing and be able to succeed at the other 2 to some varying degree of success, which is something BDO currently lacks. If you do exclusively PvP content and that's it, you're lacking on 90% of the game. If you were a brand new player and you loaded up the game and you played for a little bit and you jumped into AOS and you never did anything but AOS, you are missing out on so much of the game because you're a PvP mindset. You're like, I want to get in this game, I want to grind to rank 1, and that's going to be my focus. But then there's no incentive to ever leave that if that's your mentality.
I think those players are the most common to quit, if I'm like...
I 100% agree, but if you incentivize them with the PvP, be like, hey, you can get these something that helps you in PvE through PvP, or if you can get this something that helps you in life skills through PvP, I think that's a healthier game. And this game already kind of does that a little bit, where you run elixir rotations and food rotations and all that kind of stuff for PvP content. If you're min-maxing, that's what you're doing. But I would like to see more emphasis on making sure, because like NA has a lack of life skillers, we just do, or we have a lack of enough life skillers to supply the demand of PvP related consumables. And same with PvE. Kaffir stones are always sold out and waiting on fucking 100,000 pre-orders or whatever. There's a way to balance these things better, I think, to make them to where there's not such a ridiculous like need for these certain things.
Okay, and so
does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah. So it was kind of roundabout. So to summarize, you want more content like the node war crystals, where you have to do node war to get the best in slot crystals.
Yes.
Even for PvE. Okay,
yes.
So you want more stuff like that.
Right, and it doesn't necessarily have to be best in slot PvP. You have to do the PvP to get best in slot. It's just an example.
Okay, Jay-kun, how do you feel about this? Do you think that there should be more PvE content tied to PvP? I mean, you're a good person to ask. You love PvE, and you dabble with PvP, but like, you know, it's not your primary thing. So what do you think?
So one good example of what got me into starting Node War, and it was like the sole reason why I started Node War, is actually because of glorious Akrods. Because you can only make glorious Akrods using the gallantry essences or whatever. And so I had never really I've dipped my toes into Node War, but I haven't like jumped into the pool. And to be honest, like now in terms of like Node War, I'm actually having quite a lot of fun. Like doing shy PvP compared to my witch PvP. I think that's why I hated PvP, because I was playing a witch and it was not that fun. But this different role, this different niche, definitely improved my outlook on PvP. And the whole reason why I started PvP was the essence of gallantries for the Akrod crystals. So for me, I actually have never done AOS. Since it came out, I have never done AOS. But if they added something like Essence of Gallantry or something that would entice me or incentivize me to AOS, I might actually do AOS. So going back to your question on incentivizing AOS, what do you guys think if, you know, like those exclusive AOS accessories, what if those were made available like out in the live servers? Maybe it doesn't have to be those specific accessories, but maybe they could have AOS specific accessories that you can only get if you do AOS. Would that be good? Or
I think so.
You think so?
It's my question. Yeah, so I definitely think so. I think there's definitely a better balance that they could strike between like being rewarded for actually doing your PvP And vice versa. Like, you should be more heavily rewarded for doing life skills or PvE to incentivize you to do PvP, other than just the crystals. There's a myriad of things that they could solve that with, in my opinion. But yeah, I 100% think that the game needs a little bit of balance work on, just from the aspect of, if I do one aspect of the game, I should be incentivized to do the other aspects of the game at the same time, or at a later date. It also helps with player retention too.
I find it absolutely wild that a PvE player actually wants to have integrated PvP content. That's wild to me. Like, I thought for sure J-Kun would come down and be like, no, separate. Perfectly balanced is all things good should be. Like, I was fully expecting, like, most people...
I'm a very open person, Blue. I'm open to a lot of things, okay?
Yeah, I understand. I get that. But, like, I think that, like, if you ask your average player... I mean, it really does make me think. Like, do you ask the average player, like, hey, do you want to be forced to PvP? I think if you ask the average BDO player if you want to be forced to do anything, they're going to be like, I hate it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be forced to do anything. But Jacob brings up a good point. It's like, hey, we're going to pseudo force you to... Yes, you can buy the crystals on the marketplace, but we're pseudo going to force you to do this. And then they, like, tricked you into liking it. Which I actually,
exactly.
I think...
That's what happened. That's what happened for me. They tricked me.
And I think that there's a ton of players in BDO that if they just gave PvP like an honest shot in the correct guild, mind you, if they gave PvP the correct shot in the correct guild, they would love it. They would absolutely love it. So on that token, I guess I do agree with you that, like, I do like having PvE content tied to PvP, because it doesn't, like, really hard force people to, like, do PvP, but it does, like, soft encourage players, like, hey, here's some incentive to jump into PvP without, like, feeling like they have to do it, necessarily speaking. I actually agree with that. Like, I mean, I was thinking the entire time you guys were talking, I was like, man, do I agree with this or not? I don't know. I don't really know. Like, it's tough. Like, it's tough to say whether... It kind of depends on the content, I suppose. AOS is very polarizing content. You're talking about like you're basically trying to make me do ranked solo queue in League of Legends, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I would rather slam my dick into a car door than do ranked solo queue in League of motherfucking Legends. Okay, part of the reason I don't do AOS, like, should there be, I don't know, like, I like PvP because I get to play it with my friends.
Yeah,
and
well, that's
AOS,
one of my big gripes with AOS.
I don't
right
get
now.
to play with my freaking friends.
That's my biggest gripe with AOS right now.
What do you guys think about? Okay, so
queue.
can we have duo queue as a separate queue, or do we just kill AOS altogether? I'll be honest with you. All right, so Tiltus, why do you want duo queue and AOS? And should it be its own separate queue?
I just want to play with my friends, man. I just want to like it makes no sense to have this game that's built around node wars and community and joining a guild, and then you get to AOS and it's like, hold up right there, buddy. You gotta play by yourself in this. Cause, like, I mean, when we grind, like when Epidemic grinded out solo queue, when Llama got rank 1 Archer, all we did was just sit in the Epidemic Discord with each other, all streaming our games separately, and then just play on repeat for hours at a time, because it was like, it's the closest we could get to actually enjoying it. Anytime somebody would jump in the Discord and be like, hey, I'm doing AOS, everybody was like, okay, stream it, let's watch, you know? It would just be so much more fun to be able to queue up with everybody. Or if you want to do like singles and threes, like, that's fine too, but like, there should be community, like, you should be ranked threes. Okay, if you want to do singles, that's fine. If you want to do ranked threes, that's fine. Duo's kind of weird because then you're like looking for one player that's playing by himself, so that's a little odd. But I don't think the unranked AOS was a good backup to, if you want to play with your friends, you jump in unranked. No, that doesn't work. We're all competitive by nature if we're doing PvP. So
okay, Jaken, you've never done, you said you don't like the AOS necessarily, but would you play it if you could queue with your friends?
I would. If I could queue with my friends, I would.
I'll give you a secret. Shy is really good in AOS.
Okay, I never said I hated AOS. It's just there was never really enough incentive for me to try it out. And so if there was something like being able to play with friends as an incentive to try it out, then maybe I could get tricked into liking it as well, you know?
I like this. PA's just constantly pulling the wool over our eyes.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you another question that is just gonna... This is the primary reason why I think they don't do that. How do you feel about a 30-minute queue time?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, dude, to be honest, depending on where you're at, you could have some long queue times in AOS anyways. If you're
Not
at the
where you're at everywhere. That's the biggest problem. Like,
not everywhere, yeah.
There's not enough people playing AOS. I think if you split the queues too much, you're just never going to find a match.
But then
God forbid you're high in ELO.
Incentivize players to go do it.
But there's not enough players to fill the current queue. There's I don't think that I think if you split the queues up too much, the part of the reason they have blocked time for ranked is because there's just not enough players that do AOS to really have ranked running all the time. Also, they don't want their players constantly doing it.
There's enough players on the server that could totally sustain, except for maybe the dead hours of the night, AOS all the time.
I don't know, man. Otherwise, you end up with Armin, and he's like, "Why am I paired with this blue Musa?" Like what? like after a while, you're just like the game just says, "All right, these are the only 6 players playing." I don't know. I just I feel like the biggest problem with allowing you to play with your friends in AOS, I think AOS is designed to help players get better at the game. It's not necessarily designed as group content in this case, and I think that having it be solo queue is fine in this case because it's designed to help you play with people and help you get better at your class. Overall, it's not necessarily designed as group content. Now to pivot a little bit with guild stuff into our last kind of discussion for the evening, and I wanted to kind of to blindside you guys with this a little bit. How do you guys feel about the current amount of guild activities that you can do in BDO, excluding Node Wars?
Trash.
Excluding Node Wars, what?
There's guild bosses.
Okay, but are guild bosses good content though? Are they good content?
Buff them quite a bit. We do them every week. At least over here we do.
Yeah, I know that.
But I like there to be more. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This game when it first started felt like you needed to join a guild to experience the full game. And then I joined a guild, and it's like, okay, now I have Node Wars, but that's it. There's no super crazy interactive guild activities to do, in my opinion, besides GVG and bosses.
I want guild activities to do that aren't necessarily PvP, and I think that this also the idea that I'm gonna float by you guys here is kind of out there, so you're gonna have to bear with me. But I really want more activities that bring the communities together, that bring guilds together and force you to play or have you playing with other players in a fun, meaningful way. And I gave this a lot of thought. What do you guys think about a PvE style node where you come, you build a base, okay, but this is not for PvP. Okay, like a standard Node War base, something that looks like the standard Node War stuff, but instead of having to fight players, you have to fight PvE mobs, integrating
like a raid.
With different, you have to defend your base and attack certain points of the map and hold those points of the map or something, or maybe you have to defend waves of enemies, or maybe there's these rifts that spawn at different corners of the Node War zone, and they're constantly spawning mobs, so you have to send different people to kill rifts, and all the mobs have different mechanics, and if you don't kill enough rifts, you get overwhelmed at the base, right? And then you can have different mechanics and stuff like this. This would be really cool. This would be Savage Rift. Yep. Okay, but good.
I was like, wait, my old man BDO sense is tingling. There was an iteration of this in the game at one point.
Actually good though. I'm talking content that actually is good. Like that Savage Rift was dead on arrival for 100 different reasons. I'm talking current, their current iteration of PvE, but way better. I actually love that idea of roll up, build the base, equip it with what you would equip it with Node War stuff, maybe a little bit of extra PvE style stuff here and there, and then
to have the whole or even half the Node War zone to play with, where you have things that are constantly trying to get to your base and attack it, would be so sick. Because it's almost like a stepping stone for shot calling or for Node War. You're having to move all these different pieces to this different areas to handle this different stuff.
Yeah,
that
do
would
they
be
need
really
to
cool
revisit?
content.
Yeah, do they need to revisit this Savage Rift, but like do it right this time? For fuck's sake,
now
just
they
do it
have
right this
actual
time, bro.
mobs in the game that have mechanics and
Right.
are hard to kill.
Jakun, as the Lord PvE savior, I know you're in favor of this, but
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So
yeah, go ahead.
you know how like so I played like World of Warcraft for about a year. That played the Legion expansion, and that expansion had, you know, the storyline was like there was an invasion of demons, right? Why not also sort of integrate the lore into that idea where there was like, I don't know, there was an invasion of like the Hadum mobs or something, right? Like Valencia, Elvia, that could be that guild raid, so that you have to defend against the mobs, and it could be integrated to the lore, and it's also cool, and then blah blah blah. So definitely I'm in agreement for this PvE piece of content that I want to eat up. So
yeah, like I think it would help introduce players to like guild content that isn't necessarily like end game PvP content. Then you have end game PvE content that still brings the community together. And so they've kind of hit this in the current, like this next expansion. They've got these leaderboards that's still all solo content. And what the community constantly asks for is, we want more group grind zones. We want more group guild content. We want more reason to get into Discord with each other and talk to each other and interact with each other. Like, don't necessarily force us to do it, but man, would it be really cool to get together as a guild. And that honestly, like you guys said, it would help introduce players to PvP in a really weird way.
Yeah.
If you structured it correctly, it would help introduce them to working as a cohesive unit toward a common goal without holy box, Batman. Towards working toward a common goal without necessarily the toxicity or all the other stuff that goes into PvP with players being nervous and stuff. They're like, PvE is something they're familiar with. Introduce one unfamiliar thing at a time. In this case, working with other people in PvE, like a lot of other people in PvE, right? Like, this is like an unfamiliar concept for them. Then, so like they do this PvE node war type of content that I'm kind of suggesting. Then they could like very much more easily transition into node wars, where they're like, okay, well now it's basically just the same thing. I'm very familiar with what to expect and stuff. It's not such a big leap for a PvE player. And honestly, like you guys said, they already kind of have this in the game, so all they would really need to do is they just need to hard rework it. Like they have so many other systems in the game. They would just need to hard rework it and make it fun. And honestly, I trust them to make it fun. I think that's the next step in big PvE content, is trying to get big like guild guild PvE content that isn't, bro, the guild bosses are so lame. I think the guild bosses are just so miserable. Bro, people ask me to do con like every week in Reforged, and I'm like, I will not have unionizing in this guild. No unions. Like we are not doing con, and that is it. I hate shooting those cannons. You know what I mean? You play classes for thousands of hours, and the developers are like, wouldn't it be cool if we forced them to get on a cannon? Like, give me a break, bro. Like, let me play the class that I want to play and make the mechanic engaging for me in other ways. Conwa, I think, was just a poorly done guild boss. And then you have the other guild bosses, which admittedly they have buffed over time, but it's not the rewards that need to be buffed, bro. These bosses just suck. You just stand there and you just blast the boss down. It's more of a hindrance than anything else. You just stand there, you blast the boss down. It's like 15 minutes. You get through all 3 bosses. Boom, you're done. That doesn't
like
really. Yeah, that's absolutely a chore, because you have one person doing all of the guild missions to get the guild boss every week. There's always just that one guy who's like, God, I hate this shit. And they're going around it like, what's that place? What's the place that you have to grind for like the what is this? What is this? Harash. They're like going around Harash like, I hate this. I hate everything. But it's gonna give everyone 15 minutes of content, so I'm gonna waste 6 hours of my time. Like, nobody likes that stuff. So I think I would just like better structured guild content for PvE. And I'm gonna be honest, I hope to God that's what they're developing currently at Prolobus, because like we see this transition towards more of a PvE structure. I think this is their next step, which is why I wanted to kind of discuss it a little bit.
I sure hope so, because that sounds sick. I would jam the shit out of that.
Yeah, I think we all would. And it's like really easy. I don't even think that there's a way that they could fuck this up. Like they could literally just give us. They could literally just give us. Okay, all right. Like they could literally just give it. They could actually just give me node wars with like a constantly spawning like more difficult group of enemies, and I would be happy with that. Like they teased us with that like that level system. You guys remember this? It was like this Sakraya lower thing where like you would like clear a zone and then you would drop to the next level, and you would clear a zone and it would be harder. And then we never got it. So like it could be like that, but for a guild. And that would be really cool
bosses too. In the new region, like guild versions, they can make a couple of them into the guild versions. You know, that'd be kind of cool.
Like
the way I picture it is like you roll up to Serendia, you hop in the Elvia zone, you build a node war base, and then you just have these different mobs from all over BDO just trying to come murder your base.
Right.
Like
that would be.
It would be so simple to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all have different mechanics.
Yep.
Like you could just work in all those mechanics that you've been working on. It would be so I feel like it'd be so easy to do. It's just a slam dunk overall, and you would have so many more people doing it. Now, the trade-off is if everyone's doing that, no one is doing node wars. Node wars die. If you introduce that and you have it competing with node wars in any way, node wars are dead at that stage, because like there's going to be too many guilds that are doing the PvE stuff, because it's just a healthier way to grow your guild, I think, overall. It would be to do content like that than to do node wars necessarily.
It would be a fine line for sure.
They would have to like draw a line and be like, okay, it's only on these days or something, and like I don't know, they'd have to balance it around node wars really well, but I think it would be really good.
Any group content is good for this game besides node war.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're all constantly asking for, one way or another. I think, right? Okay, is there anything else that you guys want to touch on? Because we have, technically we have like 13 minutes or so left. If you guys want to, because I kind of got through all of it. I blasted through everything. You know what? Okay, here. Okay, I got it. No, I got it. Okay. All right.
You got it? Okay.
When you're building a guild, they said forever ago that they were going to make building a guild easier, and there have been pretty much, I'm going to go with 0 steps taken to make this easier. Like, as a new player with like a group of friends or something, if you want to start your own guild, the mountain that you have to climb to even get to the first tier 1 node war, where you're like structuring your first tier 1 node war, is just absolutely cataclysmic, man. Like, you have to get guild skill. You have to do basically, first of all, you have to recruit people to your guild. Hey, come join our guild. How many people does it have in it? 3. You know what I mean? Like, we offer you nothing. We have no buffs. We have no buffs. We have no people to talk to. The Discord is basically dead. Please join our guild and invest in us. Right? Like, it's so hard to get them off the ground. And then once you get enough dead accounts, because what happens is you just stand. If you're a brand new guild, you're basically just standing in front of the season servers, and you're just inviting everyone to the guild. And you're literally just inviting everyone, and they're just joining, and they're like, it just doesn't matter to you. You're just like, all right, we have a big enough guild now. We can pretend we're active. You're like, look, we're a 50-man guild, and they join, and there's like 48 dead accounts. You're like, all right, that's fine. It's no big deal. But like, you need that. You have to become this bigger guild so that you can do bigger guild missions, so that you can get guild skills. And once you have the guild skills, at that point, then you can start to node war. But you're still griefing because we haven't even addressed the elephant yet. Like, the elephant is arguably the hardest part about trying to get into node wars. But like, I think that this whole system is just backwards and needs to be reworked entirely.
Yep.
If you're looking at a ground up organization, you gotta let them, like, give them access to like the big guild missions, and even still, maybe all guild missions should be worth the same amount of EXP regardless of what your guild size is. It's just that as your guild size grows, you have to kill more mobs to get the same amount of EXP. That would be a better way of structuring it, because like right now, it's basically impossible. Unless you're picking up an old guild shell, man, you can't make a new guild, bro. And they said they were going to improve this, but they haven't. Tiltus, I know you probably have strong feelings about this, so I'll let you talk on it first. What do you think needs to be changed with this system?
Man, literally anything. Honestly, here's one of my, and this is a little bit separate. Honestly, kick me out of T1s. Make me go to T2s, please. Like, it's
like the drug addict that just doesn't want to do it anymore. Like, he said,
it's pulling teeth.
Please, I don't want to do any more cocaine. Like,
Like half the guild wants to do T2s, the other half doesn't want to do it. Like get me out of there. Let T1s be the new player experience. Let it be baby guilds that don't have elephants. They don't need cannons. Let them run around and have fun, but get me out. Because I've been playing the game for way too damn long. I shouldn't be there. I think that would help a lot as a stepping stone of just like, hey, the T1 scene right now is a bunch of competitive players, and it always has been since T1s came out. Get me out. Make me go somewhere else, and that will help a lot. Because if baby players are like, oh, I can experience this without, having to sweat my ass off for fucking 4 months, they'll be way more inclined to do it.
Maybe you just let guilds that are like they have to have a certain amount of guild points or guild size to participate in T1 Node Wars, and then once they pass that certain amount, maybe you just force them to do that, because otherwise there's like, I don't know, there's problems with that too. But like there's always going to be those people that just like, I just want to shit on new players. Oh god, look at the montage. You know what I mean? I just want to get people that I can kill, because I can't kill Cho Nation or any actually good players. I have to kill someone that's literally been playing the game for 8 hours because I'm just that bad. Ghost. But like, I think that you're always going to have those players that just want to shit on the little guy, and so T1s is always going to be plagued with that for that reason. But I think that I want to step away from Node. I want to look at like the guild, the foundations of building a guild as a whole. Like, what do you have to do to build a guild? You have to make a Discord. You have to set up a leadership core, a clear structure and stuff. J-Kun, have you ever had to like build a guild or do anything like this? No. Have you seen guilds build over time, or have you always just joined the strongest guild?
So I just for the better part of my first 4 years of playing BDO, I just joined like PvE and life skill guilds, and they don't really have much requirements. I'm just over there progressing with my gear score. That's it. And then when the gallantry stuff came, that's when I started like looking at Node War stuff, and I just, because I was like 750 gear score, I'm like, hey, can I join? And they're like, yeah, of course you can join. That's kind of how it went for me when I was joining a guild. But so you're mentioning that it takes a lot of effort for like elephants and
oh my god,
stuff, right?
It's massive, dude. It's unbelievable.
If I have to make another elephant in this game at any point in my lifespan,
don't make me do it.
I will slam
what
my
if you
dick in a
could
cardboard. It is
just like
horrible.
buy an elephant, like people could make elephants
concept.
and they could sell you the elephant, like, and then you get guild funds or something,
That's it. Put them on the developer team. That's it. Put them in.
Anything
so somebody else could do the work, and then you could spend your money, right? You can just buy the things that take a long time to take. What if you could just buy skill points so you don't have to do guild missions, And so maybe that would help.
Yeah, I mean, like,
maybe you donate it yourself, I guess, if you're the guild leader.
Yes. There's a concept. Let you invest like your own resources and to really catapult your guild forward. And okay, that's something. I like that. I like that. That's something, bro. Give us something to get off the ground, man. These new players. If you want new players to continue playing the game and keep developing, you got to make the guild system easier. Because right now your choice is, okay, well, I have to join an existing guild. I'm like, well, what if I don't want to do that? Well, then you're gonna quit, because like you're just not gonna be able to do it yourself.
Content in the game,
right? You're just not gonna be able to do it yourself. And like the current elephant system is just so awfully bad. I'm literally thank God dismantled. I had to make every dismantled elephant. It was awful, and I used to encourage people. We had the whole guild. Back in the day, we had the whole guild divided into. We had like a guild draft pick. Okay, and we drafted everyone onto different teams. It was kind of like Harry Potter. Okay. Yep. Like you had like different houses or different teams of players, and they competed for points over time. And you got points for your team by coming to Node Wars, by doing guild activities, by coming to GVG, stuff like that. And the only way I was able to encourage people to come do elephant stuff and grief the shit out of themselves was I was like, I'm gonna offer you a shitload of points for your team. For doing this, like it's just these made-up fictional internet points.
50 points to Gryffindor, right. Baby.
Right, exactly. Like and obviously, and I'm gonna be honest, it was still fucking me because literally the reward for winning the team system was you could dress Blue up as whatever cosplay you wanted to dress him up in. So I'm still getting fucked whether I'm doing it myself or I'm not doing it myself. The Ellie's like you have to go grind. First of all, you have to bid on a guild house, which if you know the insider trading knowledge is easier, but most people don't. A new player's not going to know to go to Sandgrain Bazaar, wink wink, and bid on the guild houses from Sandgrain Bazaar for like 1 million silver and acquire a guild house. But like, you have to get the guild house, and then you have to process, you have to get all of the materials you need, which is like hundreds of millions of silver, and you have to grind tens of hours of cadres to get all the stuff that you need, and then you have to waste all of your in-game time. It's all active processing because it's all super heavy stuff. So it's all active processing. So all of your active playtime and your passive playtime
into the guild storage.
Yep.
Oh.
So all of your active,
it's coming from your personal storage. It's awful.
It sucks away all of your active and your passive playtime. It sucks away all of your resources and your time for like weeks. And the best part of this, it's RNG. You finally get this elephant and you roll it and it knows it's like it's for lack of a better term, it has an odd number of chromosomes. Like it's like like you get it and it's got like quick turn, quick back, and quick ride, and you're like, this is useless. Like, and so like you have to roll it again and again and again and again. And some guilds, I hear horror stories where they're just trying to get like blitzed back in the day. Took over 14 attempts to get one elephant. The amount of manpower they had to do to get one functioning elephant was absolutely insane. And then on top of this, you get to siege. God forbid you want to do siege someday, and you got to because you can't have an Ellie without gear. You got to blue gear your Ellie, but get this, for siege, you got to have 3. You can't just have one elephant. You got to have all 3 elephants. Need to have all the correct skills, and they all need to have enhanced blue gear, which again, comes out of your pocket. So like, all of this stuff needs to be completely reworked if we really want the guild system to succeed in BDO. I don't think anyone gives a shit anymore. If you make it easy, some of like the biggest problems with making content easy now is you have the veteran player base. You're always like, oh my god, I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow for my pen gear. Like, no one fucking cares. No one fucking cares, dude. No one cares anymore. If you handed every new guild 1,000 points just up front, no one would even care. If you did that, if you just gave them all new guild skills, like no one would give a shit. I don't think. Like, sure, make them make the elephants and stuff, but like give them node war ready stuff. Just honestly up front. But do you guys feel this? Like, do you guys care if like a new player started a new guild and they instantly had all the guild buffs, or like maybe they had like lowered down versions of it, but like they had mostly everything? Tiltus?
Dude, please just give them everything at the beginning. There's no point. You know what? The worst thing I ever saw last night or Sunday night, I was doing a node war, and this guild brought a T1 elephant without gear out.
Oh,
and I was
no,
like, oh my, I've literally never seen that in my entire life. I felt so bad because it was like, this is obviously a brand new guild, and they got the right idea, but they missed the mark by quite a bit. So
or
make the whole system. I've made 6 elephants in my time playing BDO, and every time it is a week and a half sink of all of my active time. Like, make that easier. Give out the guild skills if you want to make them grind for CTG and the node war skills or whatever. But the base stats, just here you go. You joined a guild, go for it.
Right.
And
rework
the guild boat. Make the guild boat worth something.
Oh, that's another topic entirely, which we will have to touch on. We'll have to touch on next time. Jacob, do you have any closing comments on? I know that you haven't run a guild or anything, but no. Like anything.
I did have one question. When you say you're like roll an elephant, do you mean like roll with a coupon or like make a brand new elephant?
No. You have to. You can't use Mount Skilly XP changes on an elephant. Believe me, I would have thrown my wallet at the screen so fast to not have to craft another elephant. And maybe that's the solution. And I don't really care, bro. I'll pay it. I'll pay the money. There's not an amount of money that I wouldn't pay. But like, when you turn in an Ellie and you redeem it, it's kind of like it's like a horse emblem in your inventory. It looks like it's an elephant instead. And so you go to the stable keeper and you redeem it, and the second it is created, it gets 3 skills, random. And
you can't get any more.
Nope. There's no way to redo it. So you just have to delete it. If it has one for chop, no charge. Back to cadres. Like it's miserable.
I see. Okay.
Like our
Now I
last
understand
LA
the gravity of the situation. Now I understand.
Oh yeah.
it's miserable. So like, yeah, there's so many things that need to be reworked with the new guild system. Now we covered a lot of stuff on this podcast. Are there any closing comments? Tiltus, I'll start with you. Are there any closing comments over all the stuff that we've covered today, whether it be the crystals, questing, guilds, PvP content?
Yeah.
That you want to touch on?
The crystals look dope. Balance DR a little bit more, please. Just a smidge. Just a smidge. And then get me the fuck out of T1s.
Okay.
Please.
All right, and again, that's twitch.tv/rslay, or we call him Tiltus, but hopefully he changes his Twitch name soon, TM.
Yeah, I'm gonna rebrand soon.
And J-Kun, any closing comments?
I just really liked your idea of that Node War PvE thing, and I hope that really comes true. I really hope that comes true. So that's all I have to say for it. This was an amazing topic for the topics that we talked about on this podcast, and maybe we'll talk about some more cool stuff next week. So thank you for having us. So
yeah, of course, every week. Yeah. So as for my closing comments here, I do see Tommy in J-Kun's chat. How about Elvian Node Wars for veteran players and Olvian Node Wars for newer players and PvP for beginners? We might be able to touch on that a little bit next time. I do think that on the surface, that seems like a reasonable idea, but we'd have to flesh it out a little more, and so we will try to maybe look at this a little bit more next time. I'll have it here in my notes, but this has been another amazing podcast. Thank you both for being here. This is awesome. This is going to be a wrap for the Old Moon Podcast, episode 3. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you to twitch.tv/jkunvt, twitch.tv/rslay, and then, of course, if you're watching on twitch.tv/blues _squadron, working on removing the underscores and help. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting us. These will be up on YouTube. I know J-Kun posts his on YouTube. I post mine on YouTube. Tiltus soon.
I don't.
TM.
Y'all get all the views on those. That's fine. We don't need to split it that much.
That's fine. So if you ever end up missing the podcast, it does happen Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. You ever end up missing it, you can always look on at least my YouTube in the morning. It is up immediately, so you can listen to it on your way to work, or maybe while you're not at your computer. That is the entire idea, is to discuss the critical ideas and the big happenings of BDO for people that maybe can't be at their computer 24/7. So thank you guys so much. Boys, I'm going to go ahead and bounce out of call and go ahead and wrap things up here for the evening. Great job tonight, gentlemen. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Look forward to next week. We'll see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, let me hit the followers real quick. After stories, yo, I love how active you were in the chat. After stories, I loved reading about it. N.A. Arsha, Mr. Mirmo, Sukano, thank you guys so much. Hey girl, hey, thanks for those follows, guys. I really appreciate it. I think we just hit up. The Twitch channel says 6K followers now. That's pretty cool. Technically, I only have 5,951, but it does say 6K now, which is really, really cool. Thanks for the podcast, dudes, and Doge, right on. Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Rain, thanks for the follow, buddy. Hey, girl, hey. How you doing, buddy? Thank you so much. I appreciate all of the support from you guys, all the subscribers, the resubscribers, the gifted subs. I think I saw Lassa Fox subscribed with Prime when I was actually off stream for the very first time. So, Lassa Fox, if you're here listening to this on YouTube, thank you so much for Prime subbing. I really appreciate it, buddy. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up. I think I'm gonna throw it over to J-Kun, as is tradition for the Old Moon Podcast. I really appreciate everybody coming out and supporting me and J-Kun and Arslay with this podcast. It is difficult to put out. We put a lot of work into it every week, so I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it. I'll see you guys on Saturday when I come back for more content. Later, taters, guys. Oh! Make sure you're in the YouTube. Make sure. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Make sure you join the YouTube channel, join the Discord, so you can get that podcast content, so you can get that Fun Day Monday content, even if you do miss it. Okay, guys, have a great rest of your night. I love all of you.